What's going on, guys? So today I am going to be showing you how to make a very important adjustment on your turbo car. Now, obviously, when you're building a turbo car, you're running a wastegate, external or internal depending on the setup. I'm running an external wastegate, and usually when you get them, they have springs in them set to a certain PSI. Now, you want to make sure that that PSI is set to the right number. If those springs aren't set to the right PSI and you go and you start doing pulls with your car and it decides to go to the moon, you're gonna send rods, head gaskets, all that stuff, poof, toast, all that hard work out the window. So I've already put mine in the car, but I'm gonna show you the tool I'm gonna use to adjust it, the tool I'm gonna use to show you what PSI it's at and why I should have tested this on the bench before I put it in the car, because I don't think this E46 is going to be able to handle the pressure that wastegate's at just yet. This right here is the tool I'm going to use to test it. We just made it. It's not very complicated. You've got your air fitting, goes straight into your air compressor, a regulator, a gauge, and then a line coming out that you're going to use to pressurize your wastegate. You want to do this so that you can get an accurate reading on exactly how much PSI it takes to open that valve. So first off, what I did is I disconnected the dump pipe for the wastegate. You can see it's chilling right here. Now what we need to do is there's two, on my wastegate at least, hold the light here so you can see, there is two barb fittings, one on the top and one on the side. You do not want to pressurize this one. The one on the top. Do not pressurize the top one. It's not good for it. And yeah, don't do that. Bad things happen. So then here, you got the bottom one. What the bottom one does is when you pressurize that with air or boost, depending on what happens, the spring inside goes whoop and gets compressed. Then in here, that little valve opens and closes, which lets exhaust pressure down out your dump pipe. It can be recirculated or however you run it. So once your regulator is set to 0 PSI, you've made sure that this is turned all the way down so you don't blow up your wastegate. You connect this to the bottom barb fitting on the wastegate and slowly start turning the valve up. As you turn the valve up, you'll start to see the PSI go up. And you want to watch to see when that gate starts to open. So we're going to start real slow. It's starting to go up. So if you wanted your wastegate to open at 10 PSI, that's 10 PSI right there. It should start opening, and it's not. So let's continue on. 15 PSI, 20 PSI, still no movement. So that'd be running 20 pounds of boost right there or more. It's 25 pounds, still no movement in the gate. 27 pounds is just starting to open the gate, which is just ridiculous. 30 PSI is where it opens. So right now, this car will be running 30 pounds of boost, and that's a little bit excessive. So we're gonna have to adjust that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna remove it, put it on the bench, test it again so I can show you real clear, and then we're going to change the springs. So I'm going to show you now, just to clarify, that this wastegate won't open until 30 PSI. As I turn the pressure up, 10 PSI, no movement. 20 PSI, no movement. 25, it starts to move up. And 30, it's fully open. So that goes to show that that car, my car, would be running 30 pounds of boost if I would have just thrown this in there and not changed the spring. So this is very important that you check this before you install this in your car. So now we're going to change the spring and see if we can get that down. When you pull this cap off too, it's going to have an immense amount of pressure on it. So when you undo the V-band clamp, you want to be very careful when you take this off that you have a lot of pressure pushing down on this. Imagine like a air brake pod. That's kind of what it seems like. There we go. You're supposed to use a compressor, like you can use like a jack to hold this down. If you use the jack to hold this down and take that off, you can relieve the pressure slower. It's a little bit less intense than doing it this way. You want to take it apart. There you can see there's multiple springs in there, which is way too much pressure. So what we could do, we got 3 here. This one's pretty soft. This one's got some juice to it. She's pretty stiff. I have no idea what pressure spring that is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna run this one and we're gonna see what kind of pressure that gives us. If not, we might add one or switch them out and go from there. That spring's got a lot less pressure than the other one. I'm going to put this wastegate on the jack. What we're gonna do, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a piece of pipe up to the table to help us compress the spring. So once you have this seated properly, boom, just like that, take your clamp, put it back on. So now we're going to do that test again and see when that valve opens. So the valve starts to open at 10 pounds and is fully open by 15. So that's going to work. So once you've cycled it a few times, just to make sure that the pressure is good to go and that you keep hitting the same PSI as it opens, you're good to go. And then you can throw it back in your project car and get her done.